She's spoken before, and over the years we see a progression of things that Patricia cares about and that she focuses on. She's been a radio talk show host. She has written many books. She's been involved with the Syrians and many things that I know many of you here are aware of. So she's done some fantastic things. But in recent times, she's written her first novel called The Emissary. And you're going to be hearing something about this today because it's very much caught up with whales and dolphins, which we take for granted. They are the most extraordinary beings, and we don't treat them very well. So we're going to hear today how, A, we need to do something to help them. B, they are far more extraordinary than maybe many of us know. But most of all, I know you're going to get a real heart sharing here, and I think you're going to have a fabulous time. So put your hands together, please, for Patricia Cori.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Such an honor to be with you again. Well, as Andy said, I do a lot of things, and I've been working with the Syrian High Council for 15 years now, even though as a child they were already coming to me and sending me messages like, at 4 years old I told my mom, I'm from a parallel universe. You don't understand it yet, but you will when I'm bigger, and walked out of the kitchen, and my mother was like, what? And it was because I was already hearing these little beings, I call them the little blue people, were already sending me all of this incredible information as a child. And I was allowed and blessed with the love of a mother who allowed me to develop that gift. And unfortunately, so many others and so many people, children, are not allowed that freedom. And so many of us rediscover these gifts as we get older. So I've been working with them, bringing through quite a lot of galactic information over the years. And thank you so much. So many of you are readers and friends out there. And I know you're familiar with my work. And I'm very grateful that you've taken the time to come tonight to hear me speak. I want to speak to you about, well, the way I do things is I like to talk about the problem first, because I feel that sometimes in the spirit community, we just don't want to go to the problem area. We want to stay in positive mindset where everything is bliss. And unfortunately, everything is not bliss on this planet. Would you agree? Yes. All right, well, there's a lot of trouble going on in the oceans, and I'm out here. I call it screaming and shouting. But I'm a warrior for this planet, and I'm particularly an environmental warrior, and I'm very involved with the whales and dolphins. So I'd like to give you an introduction to what I'm doing. I want to talk to you about the problems that we've got, and then in the second half of the talk, I want to take you higher and higher and higher and share with you the information I understand about the galactic whales and the dolphin beings. So bear with me for the pain, and we will quickly move on and discuss the higher purpose of these incredible Cetacean Nation. All right, how many of you are aware of what's going on with the sonar in the oceans? Do we have some light back here? I want to see all these hands. By the way, the room is full. Thank you so much for coming. All right, well, it looks like a lot of people, so that's good, and I'm going to take it into detail. I like to say, Houston, we have a problem. Would you play the video? I've got a quick video short here. It's 5 minutes. It's from the NRDC, which is the National Resource Defense Council. They are one of the biggest activists for this planet, for the whales and dolphins. And they are actually suing the Navy for the sonar tests and disruption that it's doing. So I'm going to show you this quick clip, which is gripping. And then I'd like to talk to you about in detail about what is happening right now, because we need to understand that the ocean is a musical instrument. The ocean is the emotional body of this planet, and the whales and dolphins are key instruments. They are singers of the galactic song. They are singers of the Gaian music, and they are imprinting the consciousness of every molecule of the water. Every cell, every crystal of salt is being harmonized, raised to its higher consciousness, reminded of its perfection as part of the music of the oceans. And it is my belief and this does get me a little bit of adverse attention, that the destruction of the ocean music is not a byproduct of the Navy activity. In other words, to save us from the terrorists, yada, yada. You know this tape, I'm sure, but rather a deliberated and concentrated effort to silence the music of this planet. And we will not let that happen. And that's why I'm out here screaming and jumping and shouting, along with some very dedicated people. I'm very honored to say that the NRDC endorsed my book, The Emissary, which I'll talk to you about later, and gave me permission to show you this very important piece of video. So, please. It's longer than that.
The ocean is a world of sound. In the darkness of the sea, whales, dolphins, and other marine animals to locate each other over great distances for mating, to find food, avoid predators, and care for their young. Human technology is now drastically changing this environment, damaging a delicate web of life, threatening the ability of whales and other marine animals to function, and ultimately, high-intensity sonar used by the US and other navies to locate submarines can emit sounds over 235 decibels, as loud as a rocket blasting off. Air guns, used for offshore oil and gas exploration, emit intense noise bursts that can cover thousands of square miles. Imagine a day in the city, disrupted by excruciating sound. Sounds so loud, they disorient you, paralyzing your ability to function. As we industrialize the marine environment, we are destroying life. Bahamas blasts high-intensity sonar during training. 16 whales strand, bleeding around the ears and brain. The US government report concludes the mass mortality was caused by high-intensity sonar. Beaked whales observed there for years were never seen again. Canary Islands, September 2002. 18 whales of 3 different species die on the beach in the wake of an international. Washington State, May 2003. Scores of porpoises and killer whales panic as a US Navy destroyer uses high-intensity sonar, and dead porpoises later are found along the shore. North Carolina, January 2005. 37 whales of 3 different species, some bleeding internally, strand and die along the outer banks after a continues. Canary Islands, 1985, 1988, 1989, 1991, 2004. Japan, 10 strandings since 1960. Greece, May 1996. US Virgin Islands, October 1990. Madeira, May 2000. Brazil, June. Gulf of California, 2002. September. Hawaii, 2000. July 2004. Dolphins and other marine animals can be protected with common sense precautions. Put vital habitat off limits to oil exploration and peacetime training with sonar. Avoid areas where whales migrate, feed, and calve. Whales and dolphins are not nearby. Limit high-intensity sound until scientists know more about harm to whales and other marine life. We can ensure our security and meet our energy needs without endangering the wildlife that shares our oceans. Help protect whales, dolphins, and other marine animals from high-intensity sonar and industrial ocean noise. NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council, and IFOR, the International Fund for Animal Welfare Online. Make your voice heard.
All right, I'm sorry about the quality of that little glitch in there, but I think you got the point. Now, what is happening now is that recently, in April, the U.S. Navy petitioned, and it doesn't, petitioning, they're petitioning their people, right? The NOAA, that is the agency that protects the coasts and protects the water. And they petitioned them to be able to begin a new 5-year program of war tests on the ocean. And this is an all-out attack on the ocean. This includes sonar, high-density sonar, a new little item they call electronic radar systems. We don't even know what that does. Bombs, chemicals, explosions. Try to imagine whales and dolphins need sound to exist, to hunt, to mate, to navigate, to migrate. The ocean is a bowl of water. You know how sound moves through water. Imagine what it is like when these constant high decibel sonar blasts perpetually blasting the oceans. And the Navy has just asked and gotten an approval, not that that was hard, to go ahead on an all-out attack. No more protection, no more sanctuaries, no more even pretense of protecting some of these incredible sanctuaries. There are whales in extinction. The right whale is an animal in extinction. They have a breeding ground off of Florida. That's open territory once again. And to be honest, does it really matter? There's nowhere you can run away from sound when you're in the ocean. Now, what I think is happening when all these whales are beaching, I think they're running away from the sound. Imagine for a minute, if you were in your living room having a lovely dinner with your family, and a fire engine came careening through the wall into your kitchen, blasting those horrific sounds. What would you do? You'd run out, right? I mean, what you would do, sound of that excruciating volume and pitch would cause you to run as far as quickly as possible out of the environment. And so when we see whales and dolphins beaching themselves in droves, 20, 50, 100, as Pierce Brosnan said, 20 here, 50 there. And this is an old clip. It's getting much worse because there is no more control. So we've got whales and dolphins turning up on beaches, bleeding through their noses. Bear with me. I know this is unpleasant. I'm going to get past this, okay? Bleeding through their blowholes, through their eyes, etc. We now know there have been tests run that their brains are simply exploding from these sounds. The whales and dolphins have incredibly large oral cavities. They are the most sensitive, possibly some of the most sensitive animals for sound. So even if they're not dead from these experiments, many of them are going deaf and going blind. And I would like to suggest, first of all, that whales and dolphins are highly more acoustic because they're less visual and far more dependent on sound for survival. So, I'm out here screaming and yelling and talking as much as I can about this invasion of the Navy and how we human beings simply cannot sit back any longer. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world with no whales and dolphins. It appears to me that there's a campaign on to destroy innocence on this planet. The children, the animals, beautiful things, love. Think about this. The new terrorist group is called ISIS. Get it? I mean, so there are so many things that we need to talk about and consider about what we're going to do about this. And moreover, I think it's very important to talk about why it is happening. By the way, it's not just the American military. I just went to the Royal Navy's website, and what's on the front page? The home page of the Royal Navy? Learn how to use high decibel sonar to protect your buddies and the ships nearby. It's on the front page. Sonar, sonar, sonar. And as these days go on, this attack on the oceans is getting stronger and louder, and more whales and dolphins are leaving this planet, which we might think is a destiny factor of galactic beings that are going on to serve on a higher plane, and I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. But I would love for some of them to stay around, because we need them to help hold the oceans in balance. And in fact, in my book, Before We Leave You, which is the book I did before the Emissary, I channeled information from the whales and dolphins, and they said, we can work on other levels. We can go ahead and precede you in the process of ascension, which this planet is going through. But there needs to be an element of a volume of us holding the music for the planet to stay in balance. All right, so consider that the ocean is the emotional body of Gaia. And that makes complete sense when you think, for those of you who are working on esoteric levels, know that water corresponds to emotion, right? Okay. The water is, remember Dr. Masaru's wonderful work with crystals and showing us water crystal. You all know what I'm talking about? Okay. Let's consider that the ocean, water, conscious being as a collective, and conscious units at the molecular level are all responsive to sacred geometry and music and vibration, which is how everything works, doesn't it? And these whales and dolphins are weavers of music, weavers of sound, weavers of light on Earth, and as I'll get into in the second half of my talk, through the galaxy, through the universe. Okay? Could it be that the force that wants to silence the beauty of this planet, did you hear anybody speak about that before me in this weekend? Okay, so I'm not off the charts here? Okay, good. So we agree that there is a force that wants to take down this planet. And they're good. They are strong, but we're better. Okay? And this force, this darkness, this negative junta knows the gig is up. And they're pulling out all the stops. And we are better. But we're not organized. Are we? We're not organized quite enough. So often I see the work that other associations are doing. We're fragmented. I'm trying to help bring all of these organizations together and be one unit. All of the light workers on this planet, one unit, organized, supporting each other, organized in groups, effective for change. And I'm appealing to everyone I can possibly speak to start truly committing energy to this concept. The oceans are the emotional body of this planet, and we need to get to work on this, because when the oceans are completely in havoc, we're in trouble. So what we're seeing now is the assassination. This makes me popular with the powers that be. No, it's not collateral damage. No, it's not accidental. They are deliberately, in my humble opinion, taking out the sea mammals. And their intention is to silence the music of this planet. Okay, that's a pretty big statement. But if you look and you listen, you will know that the U.S. Navy, in their latest petition, has come out with a statement, declaration, and this is available to be read if you so wish to, that unfortunately, in the development of protective measures for the planet, the Navy can possibly take, the word is take, up to, read my lips, 12 million sea mammals. Okay, now there's a variation on this. Some say they really only said 10. Some say they only said 8. There's a few people who are really protecting themselves when they speak, and they say a few thousand. One dead whale, deliberately dead, is more than we want to even allow, okay? 12 million, 10 million takes. The Navy defines taking as maiming, harming, deafening, disrupting, or killing whales and dolphins. So, they're very powerful, and a lot of people are afraid to speak out about that, but I'm not, as you noticed. And I am trying to rally people to, first of all, get involved with this, get out of fear. Whatever fear you may still hold about making your voice known, now is the time to decide what you're going to do. Because just know that you're on the list. If you're a vegetarian, if you're a vegan, you are subversive. I mean, you're bad. So if you're sitting here, you're on the list. If you're in Glastonbury, if you're wearing red, you're on this list. So get over the fear and start signing petitions because, believe it or not, it helps. NRDC I had the best meeting with these people in Los Angeles. And I am the emotional, intuitive warrior. And then there are the logical, organized, legal people who do it too, but they do it in a much more contained, mythological way, whereas you'll see me screaming on a rooftop. And I met with them. They were very gracious. And they told me that they know it's a long process. They know they've been harassed to the max, but they continue with this suit against the U.S. Navy. And the suit is not stop killing all the whales and dolphins or we'll blow your house down, but a very well-presented legalese documentation and a suit. I mean, you can't imagine the documentation they've got in this ongoing suit, that the Navy has to review and re-examine the potential effects of what they're doing, and as much as possible, reduce the frequencies, reduce the weaponry, and bring down the take potential. And what they're doing, very cleverly, of course, is buying time to make it possible for the Navy to be able to say, yes, we can reduce it, but not end it, and to bring public attention to this matter. Very clever. So somewhere along the line, I would love for you, if you're being touched by what I'm telling you, please investigate NRDC and tell them Pat sent you. Sea Shepherd, of course, you're familiar with. The wonderful Captain Paul. He's out there fighting off the ships that are out there openly killing the whales and dolphins. But this is much more insidious. This is penetrating every coast. The British are doing it. The navies of every country must be doing it, right? And every day, it seems, we're hearing about more and more whale and dolphin deaths. So I would like you to consider what a world will be without that music. If you agree with me that the earth is it's a celestial being, it has an auric field. Like us, we have our own musical frequency, don't we? You are readers of the Syrian Revelations. I don't even know the name of my books anymore. In the Syrian Revelations, the Syrians speak about how we have an individual musical imprint. They call it the WAM vibration. Each being on this planet has its musical imprint. And we relate on so many ways, connecting that music, even if it's inaudible, with each other. But the whales and dolphins, oh my goodness, they are really weaving it through the water. Humpbacks. How many of you have been out with the whales? Oh, but my dears, so you don't really know what I'm talking about. Well, we'll have to fix that. Okay, humpback whales. Do you know that the song of a humpback whale can last up to 40 minutes? They've been able to track, could be more, up to 40 minutes without repeating any of the refrain, any of the melody. Talk about intelligence. A 40-minute musical thesis that they can send out over 1,000 miles away. Just sit on that for a minute. A 30, 40-minute musical piece, opus, salut, that they can send 1,000 miles away. That dispels any of the existing ideas that music of the whales is simply for mating or hunting. Surely, nature is not that unforgiving that a whale would have to go 1,000 miles to get a fish or to find the love of his life. We wouldn't have any male population if that were the case, would we? So why are whales and dolphins singing 1,000 miles away? Well, I ran into this very strange character named Pierre Lavigne. And Pierre, if you're listening, I'm sorry to call you strange. And he is this French musician, scientist, whale lover, who loves humpbacks like I do. And he developed this bizarre instrument with Stanford University, which is like a sort of plastic, what's the word I want? Let's go with plastic for now. A conch shell that has all of the inner, it was as if he had sliced open a conch shell and studied the sacred geometry within it. And of course, what more beautiful sacred geometry than the conch shell, right? And recreated that dynamic in the form of a plastic resin, that's the word. A resin instrument that looks like a conch shell. It has all the chambers and whatever inside. And he found that when he could play that and reproduce perfectly humpback calls. It's an amazing story. So he's been out in Guadeloupe singing and playing with dolphins, with humpback whales. And as soon as he gets into the water with this instrument, he knows how to work with, the reason why it's resin is so that he could work with it underwater. He goes underwater, he plays this conch shell, and he's able to reproduce the sounds of humpback whales. And they just come in. And I've seen a video where they just come swimming into him. And he has been doing experiments around the planet with other marine biologists and researchers. He will initiate a refrain with this conch shell. The humpbacks will sing it back to him. And people that are stationed in other places around the planet will listen for that particular piece of music. And lo and behold, he gets contacted. He's in Guadeloupe. He gets a call from a fellow researcher in Hawaii that says, they're singing it here. Pierre, they're singing your song. Oh, I get goosebumps. And so I really get goosebumps on this. It's so exciting. So they're working on this. And Pierre said, we are writing an opera, the opus of the whales. And what we're finding out is by studying the exact refrain, the exact piece, they are singing it to each other, and then that whale 1,000 miles away is relaying it, playing it again, singing it again, and sending it another 1,000 miles away. And lo and behold, what we've got here is a musical symphony that is embracing the entire oceans of this planet. How exciting is that? All right? This is now being studied. It's being examined by people that know what they're doing. It's not airy-fairy. It's not a conceptual thing. This is reality. They're working with this. And Pierre says, we will be able soon to actually write the whales opera. It just touches me so much that I'm going to cry. Imagine the human race being so tuned in that we get this, that we get it. And then by getting it, we can honor it. And by honoring it, we can save it. So what needs to happen now is the sonar needs to stop. No, it's not good enough to lower it, the frequency. It needs to stop, especially the deliberate, high-frequency, excruciating sonar sounds that the military is using. Ask yourself this. Why do they need 5 years of testing? What are they testing? Any ideas? The war what? What'd you say? The war. All right, I can see if you tell me, all right, look, we've got a bunch of new submarines, and we're testing to make sure the equipment works, and having a couple of weeks of war games and going, okay, it works. 5 years, and by the way, it's already been 5 years. They've already done massive destruction. This isn't going away. This is a plan to silence the music in the oceans. And more and more people are starting to recognize that. It's nice not to be the only one saying that. It's so much better for my life expectancy. So how do we do this? Okay, first of all, I would like to also remind you that the noise in the ocean is not just military. We have drilling, massive drilling. Imagine with that sensitive hearing, if you had to be, imagine a mnemonic drill in your bedroom while you're trying to sleep. We just take this for granted, that how destructive sound really is. It's immense, right? In fact, it's being used as weapons now in some of the new weapons programs. Remember when in Israel, what was it? Some so-called terrorists. Oh, did I sound sarcastic? Sorry. Didn't they run into a church in Bethlehem? You remember this story? See, we forget, don't we? I don't mean to show my age here, but it was maybe 10 years ago. There was some kind of Hamas problem, and the so-called terrorists ran into a church in Bethlehem, and Israel started blasting them with high-frequency sounds. Does nobody remember this? And they were screaming in despair. Let me see a hand here of people that remember this. Wow, guys, we can't forget these things. So we know the military is using sound as a weapon. It's not beyond credibility to think they're using these weapons on the ocean, all right? For whatever purposes they claim they're doing it, my idea is to deliberately silence the ocean. Well, why would they want to do that? You didn't think this was going to be interactive, did you? Why would they want to be doing that, killing the sound? I mean, there is a campaign to destroy this planet, agreed? They're doing a pretty good job of it. All right, we've got to get rid of the love. We've got to get rid of the innocence. We've got to get rid of the beauty and replace it with destruction, violence, and abuse. And so the beautiful music of the whales and dolphins is holding the emotional body of this planet together. Think about it. Can you think of anyone who would talk about a whale or a dolphin and not express joy and beauty? That's what they are, joy and beauty. And so the deliberate campaign is on to destroy them by the Navy. Then we've got the drilling. Remind me to eventually compare this to the Emissary because I will forget. The drilling. We have sonar being used by the oil companies. Have you heard of a seismic air gun? Okay. Seismic air gun is this massive compressor that sends this bubble, this huge compressed wave of energy down into the ocean bottom and through the soil in order to monitor, read the substrata of the ocean to see if there are pockets for oil, and somehow, which is beyond my scientific capacity, the way that it returns up, it's able to, the velocity with which this bubble bounces back up tells them what kind of viscosity is under the soil. All right, and these air guns are blasting the oceans, and again and again and again, we find that when there are beachings, strandings, it can be related to an event of this proportion. Navy sonar blasts, military testing, explosions, that's fun. Arbitrary explosions in the oceans. So we've got Navy, we've got the oil companies, we've got the drilling from the oil companies. We have even fishing boats are using sonar. What else have we got? Jet skis, commercial boats, cruise ships. They're not using sonar, but they're still blasting through the oceans. And these sacred places are being just torn apart with sound. What can we do? If you are not active yet, I implore you, if this touches you, even an iota, start getting involved. Your voice is the voice of the oceans. Your voice is the ocean, what the whales and dolphins are crying out for. And more people like me are animal communicators, and we're hearing this plea. And the plea is, please help us before we leave you. All right. Number one, find an organization that you really trust, that you feel, that you resonate with. I recommend, again, NRDC. I feel that they're in their highest ethics, and they're deliberately intent upon silencing the sonar, number one. So they've got petitions. Everybody needs funding, of course. But signing a petition is already so much. Or, if you've got a Starbucks habit, give up a cappuccino a week and send it to an organization that's doing the kind of work that'll make a change. Or, get out there on the corner of your community block and talk to people and help them understand what's going on. But please do something. We can't just sit back anymore about this issue. I mean, this is the survival of this planet. And if you can help people recognize and understand that there's more to the whale and dolphin community than the simple, the beauty of them as residents and, let's say, guardians of our oceans, there is something much more important going on here, and that is the weaving of music through the ocean. That's right. They are vital to the earth, and they are vital to the not only us humans, but all living species on this planet. And they're capable of going on and working from the other side, and a lot of them are already doing that. A lot of them are dying. And unfortunately, I understand it that they're committing suicide. It's like, imagine, this boom goes off in the middle of their migratory traveling, mating, hunting. These bombs, I mean, this is something hellacious. That's a California word. And what do? They look to get out of the water. That's why they're stranding. They're not lost. Although it's also possible that because these huge booms are blasting their hearing out, that they could also be lost or unable to follow their normal migratory patterns. But I also think that they just want to get out, get away from this horrible sound, and they're escaping to, the only way out is to the shore, to get out of the water. Now, to think that somebody wrote to me and said, how, Patricia, you're not really suggesting that an animal would commit suicide. Oh, I said, well, we're animals. We do it all the time. And she thought I was being facetious. But, guess what? I truly believe that the whales and dolphins are by far more intelligent and more conscious than we are. Consider, have you seen the picture of a whale? No, I'm right. A dolphin brain compared to a human brain? That was a stunning piece of information. It's much bigger than the human brain, and yet their bodies are smaller than ours. So, as arguments go for consciousness in the cetaceans, I like to remind people that even though supposedly we're only using 10%, 5, 7, 9% of our brains are smaller and less developed than dolphin brains. Perhaps it's not that they're not as intelligent as we are or as conscious as we are. Perhaps we just don't get it because we're not up to that level. And by the way, without condemning the human race, because I do love being a human on this planet, we're not that smart, or we wouldn't be destroying all of our environment. We wouldn't be trashing the oceans, the earth, and the sky. We can't blame it all on the reptilians, can we? When I walk down a beach and I see human garbage strewn on these beautiful beaches, Coke bottles, plastic, toilet paper, baby diapers, for God's sakes, we are the only species that pollutes the environment. Are you aware of this? Think about it. Is there any other animal that destroys and pollutes its own environment? Okay, don't all speak out at once. I can't. Is there? Chipmunk, somebody said? No. There's no other animal that does this dastardly disaster like us. And so we're supposed to be the most evolved species on the planet. What's wrong with this picture? The most intelligent, the most evolved, and yet we're the only species that kills for fun, for pleasure, and that destroys the habitat. So maybe these are more evolved beings than we are, and maybe that they are surfacing now, speaking to so many people because they are taking their just position as guardians not only of the earth oceans, but as key players in our evolutionary process, which we know we're deep into and can't come fast enough, I might add. Well, I decided that this was a story that needed to be told. And so, in order to help me have a longer life, I do say that facetiously, but speaking out about the Navy deliberately killing dolphins and whales, it's kind of pushing the proverbial envelope. So I decided, well, okay, I'm going to make this a movie. I'm going to tell this story to millions of people because that's what we need now. We need millions of people to wake up on this planet. And the way to do it is, in my opinion, film. Not spiritual movies, mainstream Hollywood blockbuster film. So I woke up one morning and the Syrian High Council said, you're going to write a movie. Which is funny because that's not what I do. But I said, okay, how to write a screenplay by Patricia Cori. And I got on the internet. I seriously did this. How to write a screenplay. And, of course, I got your elementary nonsense information, like 2 hints, and then take this course for $1,755. I was like, okay, can't do that one. And so I picked up a little bit of information because I'm a fast learner. And I bought the software, Final Draft, and I set out to write the story. And this story is, I'm delighted to tell you, was really immediately picked up by a Hollywood producer. And what I'm going for here is mainstream. I am going to get to the mainstream, the children, the skeptics, slipping in my message and giving them enough adventure and bad guys and the whole mix that makes Hollywood so much fun. But bringing home that message. So here's what it's about. Okay, how to summarize the Emissary. Okay, well, before I get to telling you this story, I just want you to know that I set out to do this, and I was so inspired. I wrote this screenplay in 3 months. And it was just like, it was the classic writer's kind of scenario. All I needed was a cigarette and a cup of coffee, and I could have been branded as the classic writer. I was just so enthralled, I couldn't stop. Every day it was like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours telling this story. And this is the story. It brings forward a lot of things that I'm very concerned about and interested in. It starts out, let me just get a sip of water here. The story begins with a man driving home from work in Los Angeles, and he stops to chat with his neighbor, and as they're chatting, 600-700 blackbirds drop dead, boom, in the middle of the street. Very Alfred Hitchcock-esque. They look at each other, and the pavement is lined in black dead bodies. And this, we know, is happening on this planet. It happened in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it recently happened somewhere else. You're familiar with this? The red-tipped blackbirds, dead, boom, 5, 10, so many of them dead without a trace. And the media is saying, they must have, what was it? Oh, the reason for this was because there were fireworks, and they got scared by the fireworks and decided to die. And the fireworks that I think hit them are called HARP, for those of you who know where I'm heading. So I cut to a next vignette, and now we are on the other side of the coast, simultaneous time. A woman steps out of her kitchen to go in Maine, and she wants to take the kids for a picnic on the beach. And she goes out and looks down the beach, and as far as she can see, tens of thousands of dead fish. And she's stunned because there's no scent of dead, rotting fish. She knows it must have just happened, and it's huge, massive, 10, 20, 30,000 dead fish on the beach. She grabs the kids and runs back inside and locks herself in, knowing something is happening on planet Earth. Simultaneously, we hop to the third vignette, and this is New Zealand, on the other side of the planet. And my protagonist in this story is named Jamie Hastings. Oops, she just happens to be a psychic. Oops, from San Francisco. So a few journalists have said, Patricia, is this autobiographical? I'm like, not exactly, but yeah, a little bit of me is in that. But this is a highly skilled, scientifically perfect psychic who works for the police department and douses for water and oil for corporate. And she's there to get away from the pressure of using her gifts like that. And she wakes up in the morning, and the beach in this resort is covered in 100, oh God, I can barely stand to even talk about it, 150 dead whales, dead and dying, humpback whales and dolphins. And she goes out to try to help and makes contact with this one humpback mother who is extremely pregnant. And as this whale is dying, Jamie says, can I help you? And this whale cries. And the reason why I bring this up is because that tear, that eye, is a key figure in this story. The whale lets go a tear and dies. And Jamie helps this whale cross the Rainbow Bridge. And the relationship, the bond, is established. And her life now takes this bent where she's determined, yeah, it is kind of autobiographical, isn't it? Gee, I guess it is. Determined to do something to help them. Her whole life has become clear to her that this is her path. All right, this foxy guy, his name is Matt Anderson. And I have to tell you, when you read the book, it's the comic element here because I fashioned him after George Bush. I had the best time writing this character because he talks like this, well, I don't know, halfway to a grasshopper. And I had the best time writing him. And he is the, sorry if anybody's from the South, I don't mean to be offensive, but I just find it extremely funny to talk like that. So he finds out about her, and he's got a ship out in the Pacific Ocean, and they're trying to locate oil. So he gets in touch with her and says, here's an idea. I'd like you to come on down to Houston, and I got a proposal for you. I want to talk to you about working with y'all. And she says, you got to be out of your mind, right? I'm working for the whales. You're the bad guy. And I know, well, we're not the bad guys. We're an ecologically concerned oil company. And haven't you heard that in some of the advertising? Was it BP? Your ecologically concerned oil company. Okay, yeah, sure, as long as you're not drilling holes in the ocean floor. But she agrees to go out on this ship because he promises her that he will help her get to the big kahunas in the political realm. And by helping him find these oil pockets, he will be doing less damage to the oil floor, the ocean floor. Because if she can pinpoint it, if she's that good that she can say 25 latitude, 34 longitude, and they can go down and explore and find oil, then they won't have to dredge up the oil floor. All right? So to make a long story short, she agrees. She goes out on this ship, and the whales start communicating to her. And the message the whales are telling her at first is just, we need help. Please help us. The sonar is killing us. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because otherwise you'd have to go out for coffee. But I'm bringing through the message in that story and a plea about the sonar and how HAARP is deliberately blasting, it's being used with the sonar to disrupt and destroy the oceans is a main theme in the book. I hope those of you who still have not gotten it, please read it, because even your reading that book and telling others about it is going to help raise consciousness about this problem. But it's an adventure, it's fun, it's not just a heavy-duty kind of message-bearing story. So there you go. We've got this situation. It needs to be rectified. We can do it. And we want the oceans to be resonant chambers of music and love and light. And without them, we're not going to make it. So please help. All right. What is the role then when on the invitation to this talk, it said I'll be talking about the galactic whales and the dolphin beings. And I really want to spend time now and take you up to the higher vibration of my message here, and that is what the purpose is of these beings. I say purpose, and I want to say porpoise. I just love humor. The higher purpose of my conversation. My understanding of working with these beautiful beings for so many years now is that they exist on many levels, many dimensions, and many planets, okay? So they are not just Earth beings, and they're not just on the Earth as indigenous to this planet alone. That's what they do. They work with planetary celestial bodies, holding the oceans, the frequencies of those bodies as part of their purpose. There it is again. I gotta say porpoise. For existence. And oh, by the way, have we heard of some planets with water? Are you paying attention? How many planets have you heard lately and moons that have water? Let's count. Our moon, they seem to have found water there, right? You know? You didn't hear about when they blasted the moon a couple of years ago and lo and behold, there was water? Come on. The moon has been inhabited for so long. We have underground bases, we have alien bases. I think we're pretty comfortable with that information, aren't we? Okay. And now in the disclosure drip, the daily disclosure drip, they have ice. They had water. They might have water. They might have ice. They might have carbon monoxide ice. Oh, gee, they might have water. Water on the moon. Oh, gee, well, if they've got water on the moon, there might be life on the moon. All right, so we know that. We know there's water on Mars. Oh, gee, wait, there used to be water. Oh, but, gee, there's ice on the moon. Mars. Have you seen these pictures? You with me? Have you seen the oceans on Mars? Go to Mars Anomaly. It's easy for you to say. MarsAnomalyProject.com, I think, is the website. And take a gander at some of the pictures from Mars. There are rivers. There are oceans. There are forests. There's this one picture with these trees. It's a forest, and they say that it's debris. There's trees. They're standing up. Debris. I guess it's extremely organized debris. I just thought I'd throw that in. It can stand up like a tall tree. And what other planets or moons do we know have water? Keep on time. Oh, you don't know? Europa. How about Europa? Are you paying attention to Europa? Totally water planet. Supposedly covered in ice. Gee, I wonder if we know how to melt ice. Well, I guess we must know something about ice because the solution to radiation termination is to build an ice wall. I won't get into Fukushima, I promise. I really promise. But, I just think if radiation is the problem, an ice wall is not the solution, but silly me. Yeah. You know about the ice wall? I'm going to go there. I'm going to deviate. The solution to the leaking radiation disaster in Fukushima that they've come up with after 3 years, count them. The first solution was to use sawdust. I'm like, okay, this is the best you can come up with? Nuclear scientists, anybody, engineers, got another idea? They were going to dump sawdust on the nuclear meltdown, and now the latest is the ice wall. They've built the ice wall. Do you know about the ice wall? Oh, let me turn you on. Hot radiation, melting cement, melting steel, breaking down all things. The solution is an ice wall to contain it. So they've just spent $15 or $16 billion. I'm sorry to laugh. It's a facetious, kind of frustrated laugh. And they've built this ice wall around the Fukushima plant. Just, if you haven't heard about that, pay attention. It's kind of fun. $18 billion later, whatever. And, oops, it's not working very well. Gee, I wonder why ice wouldn't contain radiation leakage. Okay. I just inserted that. I'm going back to my talk. Please pay attention to it, however. All right, so we've got Europa, which is supposedly covered in ice, and they think that there is actually an ocean under the ice. Oh, shucky darn. So that's another planetary celestial body that could be easily inhabited with sea creatures, most likely inhabited with sea creatures. Anywhere else that you can think of? Neptune, Uranus. Guess what? All of the planets in our solar system have water. That, we're getting this leaked to us, no pun intended. But we are daily in the disclosure, what I call the disclosure daily drip. We're getting these little dribbles about the real situation on other planets. And why? Do you remember back with Bill Clinton? I hope I'm not too old here. I see a lot of young faces. When he had the famous Mars rock. No, you don't remember this? You're tuned in. Okay, Bill Clinton, Mr. Bill, comes up in the media with a Mars rock. And we see this little channel that looks like a bacterial formation. And Bill says, it could be. We've got bacteria in this rock. And that would mean that it's possible that billions of years ago there were bacteria on Mars. Meanwhile, of course, they're drilling under the ground, and they've got total cities and military bases on Mars, but that's okay. At that time, the mind of the public was not ready to talk about water or life on another planet. So part of the dribble of disclosure was, oh, this rock. And it was dismissed immediately because nobody wanted to hear about it. Remember? All right, well, now we're openly being told that there's ice on Mars. There was water on Mars. The other day they said it's obviously very possible that there was life on Mars. It's like, there's life on Mars now, guys. And by 2025, they're going to colonize Mars. You got that too? Guess what? It's 2014. That's 10 years away. And you know, if we're being told about something that's going to happen 10 years from now, that it's been planned and ready to go for 40 years. So I know I'm getting off the track about the whales and dolphins, but not really, because I want to remind you that these beings exist on many planets, and they're holding this vibration, this purpose, on many celestial bodies. Now, let's talk about the multidimensional field, which is my favorite place to play. The cetaceans, when I first was contacted by them, they told me that they are known as the Kikwoki, and that they exist on many dimensions, and that they generate from Sirius, which is, of course, one of the reasons why they're connecting with me, because I'm so Sirian in nature. Now, you remember the story, the wonderful information, oh, hello, beauty, that Robert Temple brought through in his book, The Sirius Mystery. You've heard of the Dogon tribes? You know about the Nomo. Okay. The ancient, for those of you who don't, the ancient Nomo, the ancient Dogon people are a tribe in West Africa, and they were, when they were interviewed by Robert Temple, because he heard that they described Sirius as being a 3-star system, and Robert Temple eventually went to speak with them, and they described how these beings came in a ship, created a lake, and then swam out of the lake and walked up to them and told them, half fish, half humanoid, that they were from a star system called Sirius, my favorite star system, and went on to describe that the Sirian star system was a 3-star system. In fact, the depiction that the Dogon gave us of that meeting showed this spaceship with 3 legs on it, if you're familiar with that diagram. And that was also representative of the 3 stars of Sirius. And the beings told them, it's the lights, that they came from this star system, and that the second one, Sirius B, is where they came from, and that this star had already exploded. But what really happened is it ascended into a higher dimension. And what is still out there in the Sirian triunal system is what the council described as the skeletal form of that star, Sirius B. So it's still out there. It's still circulating out, orbiting around Sirius A, but it's a skeletal form of that star. But there were planets that were around that star, and they were aqueous. You've heard all of this, right? I think most of you, or many of you, are familiar with that information. So these beings were something like dolphins. And they said that they exist on many planets and in many dimensions, and that they came to Earth originally millions and millions of years ago. That they weren't necessarily indigenous to this planet, and that they exist on many different planets. And just think about that. Think about the idea that if you think about the music of the spheres, has anybody ever heard the music of spheres in this group? You have? Is there anything more divine than that moment? I've heard the music of the spheres as well. That they're responsible for assuring that every celestial deity holds that imprint, holds that music, vibrates to that song, and holds the emotional body of each celestial being in balance. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing here. That's what they're doing on all the other planets. And that's what they're doing on many dimensions. So now is a time when they're coming into a pivotal role in the process of Earth ascension. In fact, if you've read my books, you know that the thesis here is that it's not just the Earth that's ascending, it's the entire solar system. For those of you who, would you like me to explain that to you? Because some of you might not know it, and it's important. Can I? Okay. In the book Atlantis Rising, which is the second book of the Syrian Revelations, the council describe how our sun, which they call Ra, is going through a process very similar to the Syrian star B, which is their star that ascended. And here's what's happening. And it's interesting, let me interject, because our sun is behaving very oddly, isn't it? 1 minute it's got all these bizarre flares. Recently I saw a picture of the sun with a complete hole in the middle. Did you see that? The other day I saw a picture of the sun with a little craft sitting over it that looked like a spaceship but was more like some kind of an energy device. There was that picture of the sun with it looked like a ship, a big sphere with a cord sticking into it. How many of you saw that? Okay, if you haven't seen that, go on the web and search for sun. I think if you just put sun craft plugged in or whatever, use those keywords, and you'll see this awesome picture of the sun with this very large sphere with a little, it looks like a gas pump sticking into the sun. How could anything exist at that heat level? Sorry? Yeah, topping. About to take a long cosmic journey, better fill up at the sun. Our sun is definitely going through some very peculiar mutations. So if you're paying attention, if you want to know what's going on up in the cosmos, pay attention to our sun. Solar peak time, it was rather weak. Then we had these massive flares. Then we had pictures of the suns with a giant hole right through it. It was being called a keyhole. And people were saying, well, wait a minute, how could there be a hole in the middle of the sun? Aside from the fact that it's a portal for beings coming in and out of our galaxy, which is another lecture, and you'll have to me come back in a few years. The truth is that the sun is performing very bizarre things. And according to the Syrian Revelations, which have been prophetically right about a lot of stuff, I'm sure you'll agree if you've read them, the sun is going to go through its own astral chords. The sun, a conscious living deity, just like us. The black hole is nothing more than an astral cord, and the sun is getting ready to go into that higher state of consciousness that would be ascension, and that all of the planetary bodies are going along for the ride. And this is very interesting because that means that every planet in our solar system is also going to go through ascension. And it's so exciting to think that instead of thinking about our own individual ascension, the human, I don't say ego without any negative implications there, the I am purpose of life, we contemplate that a lot. When is ascension going to happen? When are we going to see the earth refine? Yada, yada. And what I believe we're going to face now is the entire solar system ascending, and all of these planets going into a higher state of being. And the whales and dolphins are involved in making sure that the musical harmonics of that process are completely, what would be the word, Nick? Perfectly harmonic, perfectly in tune. Yeah. And that they're also involved with keeping the spatial relationships, that would be the sacred geometry, relationships between the celestial bodies in the perfected harmonics so that it all goes through as a symphony, a symphonic movement. I just love that, don't you? Yeah? All right, well, we have a purpose then to make sure that the whales and dolphins on all levels of consciousness are safe and honored. And that's why I'm here to talk to you now. Some of the information that I've been given, which I find very exciting, is that there is a great whale. Her name is Wataki, and that she conducts this symphony. In the book, The Cosmos of Soul, there's a chapter called The One-Coded Master, and it's ambiguous, but it refers to a spirit, a great spirit being, coming into play after 2010 on this planet. And they refer to this being as the one-coded master that will direct the symphonic, the harmonics of this passage. And they refer to this as a great whale. And I was like, guys, it's a little hard to put that kind of information out to the public. This great whale is going to direct the entire... Come on, give me something to work with here. Okay, and recently I was sent a picture, which I should have been responsible enough to bring you, but I forgot, of something in space that they said they don't know what it is, but it looks like some kind of a probe or alien, undefined UFO, an undefinable shape of debris or craft or whatever. And what is this thing? It's a whale. I see this picture of this blue whale up in the being photographed. I promise you, if you'll come to my website, I will get that up for you so you can see it. Please forgive me for forgetting to post it for you. And I just kept looking at it going, this is a whale. Oh, my God. And the article said, undefinable object in space. It's blue. It's like this total whale, and it's got a tail. I'm thinking, okay, wait. Can you imagine if the whales and dolphins are operating at that immense level? Is it possible? Is it possible that what we understand as the universe, and I'm sure during this weekend have heard referred to as the great thought? Did anybody speak about that? That we're in a computerized synthesizer or, no? Okay. Well, the immensity of the universe, think about this, the immensity of this universe possibly being orchestrated musically, always musically, by the cetaceans. I think that this is the reality, and I think that their purpose is to do that very thing. And oh my gosh, how exciting if we can hear it, if we can understand it. How many of you have at least, if you haven't been out with the whales, have you swum with dolphins? Okay, good. Many more of you have got to get out there with these dolphins. And by the way, they're trying to make it illegal to swim with dolphins in a lot of countries. And I think, again, that it's not because they're trying to protect the dolphins. I think it's because they don't want us to get this imprint. They don't want us to feel this message, understand the music, and feel the bliss. So I want to tell you my story. Why I'm so ecstatic about the whales and dolphins, aside from the fact that I've been in communication with them for so many years, and I've been going out and spending time on the water with as many as I can for years, everywhere I can, Vancouver, Mexico, a place called the Azores Island, which I adore, which I'm going to talk about now, and everywhere in between. I'm driven. I need to be with them. Sorry, I'll stand up. And so I felt that as long as I was talking about them and not swimming with them, that I wasn't really talking my talk, walking the talk, because it was theory. I had to get in the water with them, and I had to know them and get this, because it's not good enough for me to hear it spoken. I have to feel it to be real. So I decided to swim with wild dolphins. After having had an incredible encounter with a dolphin in Cabo San Lucas, his name was Renoir, and he was in a tank. And he was a tormented dolphin because they claimed that they found him swimming alone and they brought him in. But what happened was they ripped him away from his pod. Dolphins don't swim alone. And he was tormented because he was thrown into this tank with foreign dolphins, and he just wasn't happy. And I arranged to go spend time with this dolphin, and they kept having him swim up to me, swim around, fish. Okay, go ahead, Renoir, swim around. I said, look, stop with the fish, and let me have a minute with this being. And she said, well, he's very nervous. He's skittish, we don't know you. I said, please give me this minute. So no more fish. So he swam around big, swam back around me looking, swam around big again. He comes out, and I put my arms out, and he swam into my arms. Big dolphin, I might add. And, if you've ever done any of this kind of work, they tell you, don't touch a dolphin near the blowhole, don't touch a dolphin, don't. I just said, I don't get the rules. So I put my arms out, and I said, can you feel me? Can I touch you? And he laid in my arms, and I went into healer mode, which is automatic, and he fell asleep in my arms, this dolphin. In fact, there's the most beautiful picture of this dolphin in my arms, this big dolphin, asleep with his eyes closed in my arms, which is just, I'm so grateful that somebody captured that moment. So I decided, okay, well, this is neat, but this is artificial. So I've got to get out there and swim with the wild dolphins. First of all, because if I don't, I'm not walking my talk. And secondly, because I know bliss awaits. All right, well, there's a small problem. And that is, I was terrified of sharks. I have this primordial fear of sharks because I know in Atlantis I must have been eaten alive by a great white shark or something. Because it's nonsensical where this fear comes. But then again, most fear is completely illogical. So I decided, okay, Cori, unless you jump into the water and swim with wild dolphins, you really aren't qualified to talk about this, so get out there. I went to the Azores Islands. Do you know them, the Azores? Okay, if you want to swim with wild dolphins, this is the place. It's still pristine. Very few boats are going out to the dolphins. And there are so many different species there. It's remarkable. Problem. You have to get into a wetsuit, which in itself is a terrifying option. This body was not designed to be in a wetsuit. All right, once you get over the terror of the wetsuit, we go out in this boat, the pontoon boats, you know those? These are not safe by any stretch of the imagination. And I said, we're getting a little bit far from the land. I just thought I'd bring that up. I don't really expect to just jump into high waves in wild, big ocean. And the guy said, Pat, you said you wanted to swim with dolphins. I said, yes, but the waves are about to come over the little teeny boat. I was thinking placid, nice, gentle. Oh, he said, it's North Atlantic Ocean. I go, yeah, I thought it was more calm than the Pacific Ocean. So we go out on this pontoon boat, and as far as the eye can see, at a certain point, land is so far away. Have you ever done anything like this? This is ridiculous. Land is simply a memory. A little strip on the horizon. And everything is just these giant waves. And I'm sitting there with this ridiculous wetsuit and fins and a little snorkel. And he says, look. And I look out, and as far as the eye can see, I see fins. Big fins. And he goes, you're so blessed. Look at all these dolphins. I go, how do you know these are dolphins? Just for the record, I mean, we didn't establish these are dolphins. I don't get it. And he says, Patricia, they're dolphins, look. And a little dolphin leaps out of the water. I'm like, fins. I'm talking about as beyond the doors, beyond the street, beyond the snack shops across the road, I'm seeing fins. Big fins. I go, I don't think I'm going to do this. I'm not going in the water. That's it. I'm over it. And he says to me, Patricia, It just doesn't happen that 150 bottlenose dolphins are sitting. They're not moving. They're on the run. Jump in. I just want to establish one last question here. It says, I see at about 500 fins. How do you know they're not sharks? And he says, sharks usually don't swim with dolphins. I said, see, the word usually is the problem here. Because I'm extremely unusual. What does that mean? They usually don't swim. It's out of all of these fins, surely one or two of them are big sharks. And he just goes, Patricia, jump in. I went, okay, I'm jumping in. Oh, well, if I'm going to die, I might as well go out with style. I mean, that's what I'm all about. And I jumped in. And it was very awkward because most people glide in. But I am not an athletic person. I fell in with the snorkel, and I'm all over, the fins are flipping over, and I'm just like, oh, taking in salt. And these dolphins are like, oh, God. Here's another human. I'm like, spinning and whatever. But I had asked my readers, if you have a message for the whales and dolphins, a one word, one sentence, please send it. And I got all these messages of love. One of them was, please trust us. We're not all bad. Beautiful, beautiful messages for them. And I got rice paper. I'm getting goosebumps here. And I painstakingly wrote out these messages in squid ink. Who else would do this? I mean, get real. In squid ink with the old-fashioned pen, we love you. Messages. It scrolled on the rice paper, rolled it up, and brought it with me. And when I jumped in, I had it tucked into my wetsuit. And when I jumped in, and I'm talking about I almost drowned because I was flipped over somehow with the fins. Going, oh, I get it. Breathing through the snorkel doesn't work when it's underwater, by the way. I get it. I was suddenly in this pod, 100, 200 dolphins, big bottlenose dolphins. And in the middle of the ocean, it was 2 miles down and 2 miles to shore. And if you ever wanted to know the word surrender, what surrender really means, this is one of those moments. I took out the roll and I put it in the water and I watched, because of course it was rice. It started to melt, and all of these messages were diffused into the consciousness of the water, okay? And these messages were, please trust us, don't give up on the human race, we love you, we'll protect you, all this wonderful stuff. And I was sitting there trying not to drown, and I was reminded it was like being in some kind of a fast-forward spiritual experience where I was reminded of Masaru and his messages for the water molecules, and how by praying to the broken, damaged water, they all strove to come back to perfection. Isn't that an incredible message for us? It's just so amazing. And I saw that happening before my eyes. Besides the dolphin experience, which I'm about to describe, I saw the water respond to that message. It was something unbelievable. The water cleared, the light that was coming in. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, is that an epiphany or what? The way that light refracts into the ocean water, the sun, is something, it's like diamond lights. And you've never known this vertical sense. Do you know what I'm talking about? We have ground, we have footing all the time. Rarely are we in a situation where there's no ground, there's nothing beneath us, there's nothing to ground us or to help us feel that connection, that gravity. Just water, as far as the eye can see, and not water. And this light breaking down into diamond light and shimmering down, down, and down as this love got sent down into the water, and then boom, 2 dolphins come up. And they just sit in front of me. And they're like, and I'm getting this echolation. And what they're doing is saying, what is this big fish? What is this? And I got this major download. And in describing this to people, some people say it's because you're psychic. I don't think so. I think anyone that have been in that moment there would have been able to feel this incredible echolation, this sound. That's how they measure everything. Do you know that dolphins can tell the difference between species of a salmon? By echolating, they can tell by the spinal density or whatever it is their measure. I haven't had a chat with them about it yet. That they can differentiate different species, not only different fish, but different species within the species. That's how acute the sound is. That's how vital it is to their survival. All right, so I'm there doing this Pat Cori thing, and oh, God. It was the most amazing experience of my life, and I've had many. And when they were done, I knew that I had somehow been embraced. I had been accepted. I had been cleared musically. The instrument had been repaired, and these sentinels opened the gates. How am I doing on time? Half an hour, perfect. There you go. The sentinels had opened the gates. These two dolphins swim out of the way, and all these beings start to come up. Dolphins, hundreds of dolphins, and all of them swimming around me. And I'm not talking about off the coast of Hawaii where they're used to doing this. This is rough, rough ocean. Hundreds of dolphins. I was in the water with these dolphins for 2.5 hours. And one of them, when I first put the scroll out and these dolphins started to come up, one of them had captured a piece of this paper and was playing with this paper. And I thought, it was telling me, I get the love. I get it. It was the most joyous thing. Unbelievable. I get the love. Being able to feel that music in my body, to experience it firsthand, is the reason why I'm out here campaigning for them, loving them, trying to share the understanding of how vital this music is for our survival and for the ocean. And when I was there, when that paper sent those words into the water and that clearing happened, it was as if the haze of, let's say, the salt ocean water, something cleared. It was like the water said, oh yeah, we get this, we remember, bing, and it was clear, sunlit, diamond lights, the ultimate epiphany. I really want to tell you, if you are waiting for that moment, that blissful epiphany, many people are still waiting for that to happen, really get out there with the dolphins. There are so many places where you can do that. And more of the people that are taking the boats out are spiritually evolving because they're with the dolphins all the time. You know? When I went to the Azores and I had that experience, I got out of the water. Oh, by the way, I rented the boat with the crew privately because I wanted the experience private because it was still part of researching and creating the book before we leave you, okay? And right before it was over, this dolphin comes up. I'm like, oh, it's just a lot to take in. And I feel bang on my arm. And I said, if this is a shark, I'm dead meat. That's what sharks do. This is what sharks do. And it was like, oh, by the way, before you get out of the water, we just want to teach you about your fear. And so this dolphin just, bam, it just came up so strong. And I was, oh no, I'm going to die. It's going to come back and rip my leg off. This fear, I can't have this fear and be true. I'm talking to people about fearlessness. So I had that, and I'm like, okay, if this is a shark, I'm dying. He's going to come back and he's going to eat me. And this dolphin swam down my body, swam down my side, contact all the way down, jumped out of the water. This is how I was the end of my journey and my experience with the dolphins. Leaps out of the water, jumps over my body, and comes back in and goes, and swims away. Fortunately, the captain and the crew on the boat saw it happen. And the captain said, Patricia, dolphins just don't do this in the wild. You really were blessed. I said it was about the messages. It was about the music that we made together. It was about the beauty and the exquisite harmonics that I believe came through people like you who sent your message of love into the water. And so they are our vehicle to do that. I mean, I'm not suggesting everybody get a roll of rice paper and get out there and do it. But by the way, that would be good. If you're anywhere near the water at any time, speak to the ocean, sing to the ocean. I did a concert. Did anybody come to the concert here? Oh, yeah. I woke up one morning deciding, because I opened an organization called Singing the Save Earth's Oceans, Inc. in 2012, and I decided that since I'm all about the music, I think I should do a concert for the whales and dolphins. Without any experience about putting on a concert, I might add. And I did this in London. I hired the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And they said, Mrs. Cori, do you know anything about concerts? I said, well, not exactly, but I have a plan. And he said, well, who are you? I said, well, I'm not sure, but it's good. It's all good. I just want to do this concert. Are you available? He said, well, why are you calling us? I mean, we're the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. I said, I know, you're the best. Aren't you the best? Well, not bad. And I said, well, my mom always taught me, if you want to do something right, start at the top. You can always work your way down. So I'm starting with you. So they said, this man said, you're just crazy enough for this to work. Do you have a proposal? And I said, of course. Send it. And I went home and went, yeah, prepared this proposal of this idea, a concert to sing, to celebrate the music of the oceans, so that the whales will know that there are conscious people out here understanding what they're doing, convinced that they are so incredibly conscious, so incredibly multi-dimensional, that they would get it. Now, I couldn't tell the Royal Philharmonic guy that was the purpose, because he would have said, you're out of here. And I just told him that a group of talented artists wanted to come together, and we wanted to do music to raise consciousness for the public, which is true, and that they would be the base, and then to that basic music, or let's say the foundation of the concert, we would add in sacred music from really gifted artists from all around the world. And it was amazing. Very difficult for me on a personal level to pull this off. When I realized, I think I bit off more than I can chew here. But an extraordinary concert. And the reason why I'm telling you about this is because I asked myself, did anybody really get this? All this work, a year's worth of intense work. There wasn't a lot of support as far as donations and funding and whatever. I said, made a difference? Does it make a difference? This little boy comes up at the end of the concert, and he says, Madam, Madam. And his mother's like, I'm sorry, it's my son. Because I asked for donations, and I had these little envelopes, and these donations were meager because it was not the wealthiest part of London. It was in Croydon. And he goes, Madam. I said, yes, sweetheart. I want to help. I said, thank you. And he gives me this little envelope. I don't have a lot, but what I've got, I want to give you for the whales and dolphins. And so I open the envelope, and he's sitting there, he's all nervous. What's that noise? It sounded like an alien craft had landed. Now testing, 1, 2, 3. And he hands me this envelope, and it's got, is it 50 pence? And his mom is looking at me like, we're so sorry. It's all we can do, you know? And he looked at me and he said, I don't have a lot, but when I grow up, I'm going to help the whales and dolphins. How do you like my accent? Not bad, right? Well, I'm going to do something. I really want to help. Please. And I looked at him. He said, I know it's not much. I said, no, it's everything. What you've just done, it's everything. That's good then. And it just filled my heart to know that the next generation, the children, are inheriting a mess, and they're going to clean it up too. And that gesture was everything for me. So yeah, it's working. And when you think that you're just one person and you can't really do that much, I want you to remember that little boy, Captain Paul Watson, a signature on a petition. All of these things make such a difference. We can change this. We are going to change this. We need every single person in this room to commit to that on some level. Send money. Do clean up the beach. Walk down the beach. Pick up plastic. Whole nother conversation that I'll share with you at some other time is the plastic crisis. But I do want to remind you that we are now at the breaking point on plastic. And I just want to introduce this quickly because I'm going to get the signal pretty soon. And I'm really amazed that I'm going to pull this off, Andy, and be on time. Have you heard about the gyros in the ocean? All right, let me awaken you to this problem. At 5 points now on the planet, every ocean has in it a massive island of plastic. It's not necessarily a continental aspect of dense plastic. They call it soup, plastic soup. And some of them are so dense that animals can walk on them. So the birds are perching on these plastic islands, ingesting all this plastic and flying off. The fish are eating it, and it's breaking down. All this chemical goop is breaking down into soup. So whales and dolphins and fish are now washing up, and when they open them up, there are pounds of plastic in their stomachs. Whales, the ones that feed on plankton, I just move along, all right, and they're ingesting minute pieces of plastic, and it's killing them. So it's very easy to become disempowered, and that is not the way we're going to leave this room. But I would like to implore you, ask you, please, become conscious more than ever before, particularly about your plastic waste. In California, they're going to eliminate plastic bottles, water bottles. This is great. They're going to eliminate plastic bags. Great, but we've got to do more. So whatever you can do, shop in markets instead of the supermarket. Refuse plastic wherever you can, and get to the coast and pick up some plastic. Did you know there are beaches now that are over 40% of the sand is plastic? Minutia plastic. It's killing the ocean. And we can change this. We have to change this. So I implore you, I call out to you, please take that step. Am I in time still or am I over? I've still got 15. I'm right on, man. All right. I decided to leave 15 minutes for questions. And if nobody asks a question, I'm not going to know what to do. So please, let's take this moment. And Andy's there with the mic. If you've got information or specific information you'd like to know, please take this time and shoot it out to me.
Do we have a question? Oh. Yes, did I see a hand? I do see a hand. Hold on. Right at the back, of course. Hold on. Oh, no, in fact, we got one over there first. Go ahead. You go first. And then I'll come to you.
I served in West Wales, and ago, were actually attacking the porpoises. And I wondered whether you know why that is.
Okay, that's an important question, and I've got two answers for you. Number one, there's a campaign to demonize dolphins right now, and it's really funny. I mean, there's been a lot of media about how dolphins are really very aggressive and violent. Have you been reading this stuff? I'm like, oh, so now we're going after a character assassination on the dolphins. It's not good enough that we kill them. We have to make sure that nobody loves them or trusts the vibration anymore. So for one, some of that could be media hype, believe it or not, because so many people are becoming activated by these beings, right? And the other might very well have to do with the fact that they're hungry, right? Because we are consuming the food, the the plastic destruction of life in the ocean is killing the fish. Did you know that when I was in California, 70,000 fish washed up in Marina del Rey on the beach? Not different than, by the way, the Emissary story with the 30,000. 70,000. What was the explanation the media came up with? You're going to love this. Oh, hi. The media said, we think that what's happened here is that there was some predator in the water. You're going to love this, seriously. And these fish were trying to get away from the predator. So they all swam into a contained area, and they ran out of oxygen. I thought, this is 70,000 fish, radiation oozing its way into the California coast, starfish becoming plasma disintegrating before our eyes, the entire sardine population gone, sea mammals with sores, no more fur, washing up dead. But the reason why the fish, 70,000 fish were belly up in the ocean was because a predator forced them into a small contained area called the ocean, where they ran out of oxygen. Excuse me, what the hell kind of predator was that? Brontosaurus rex? So I don't know. You know, these are animals in the wild. They're hungry. We're taking all the food out of the ocean, you know? And a lot of the food is poison. So I can't speak to that, but I do know that there's a very big media campaign against the cetaceans right now, and this really validates what I'm telling you about the deliberate destruction of the cetaceans. Another one was, I recently did a radio on, this was fun, a radio interview for the Whales and Dolphins, and this guy, it was a mainstream radio station, the guy that was interviewing me says, yeah, so can you speak to sex with dolphins? I go, oh, this is not going to be a good conversation. I said, no, can you? He said, well, a friend of mine has, you know, I had this guy on, and he has sex with dolphins. I said, you are depraved. If you think I'm going to go there, you're depraved. That is not even worth discussing. I said, if there are still humans that are enjoying more aberration than we've already got between pedophilism and rape and abuse and all the other stuff, now we've got to get into that. You're not going to get a word out of me on that, and I'm hanging up on you now. But it's a campaign. That's not to say that that isn't happening, and that, you know, let's not forget that survival, attacking for food is a survival essential. And we need to start thinking about how we are raping the oceans. How many of us are here? How many of us have had a seafood dinner in the last week? We can't keep eating all this fish. Jacques Cousteau, 30 years ago, said, the oceans of the planet are 90% dead. Okay? Just keep that in mind. We keep eating our fish and chips and whatever. And besides the toxicity in this food, the whales and dolphins need to eat. I'm sorry, I know I get very dramatic when I just, the kind of person I am.
Okay, we have another question at the back here. Should we go to another question? Here we go.
Yeah.
It's already happening. We have a radiation Hinkley Point not far from here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I couldn't see you, but now I can because Andy showed me.
Hiya.
Hi.
And I've actually witnessed it myself. Me and my son walking along the seafront and dead fish all along Blue Anchor Beach, and toxicity actually on the beach as well, on warning signs saying, please do not let your dog on the beach because it could die from having this toxicity that's coming out from the oceans, from the radiations of Hinkley, which is 20 miles away from here.
Yeah.
And they're already going to build, I think, phase 2. So there's going to be much more radiation in the oceans over there. And it's so scary. You know, me and my son were picking up all these dead fish along the ocean.
What's your question?
I just wanted to sort of maybe
Okay.
tell people that was going on.
All right, thank you.
Close by.
We have the greatest disaster that humankind has ever faced on the planet right now with this radiation situation. And we don't want to talk about it. It's too scary. I want to be in the light and forget about it. But we can't forget about it anymore because it's consuming the planet. And I have good news. Not that I'm a silly optimist that doesn't want to face, because you know I'm out there facing it all the time. I really believe that the sun is managing this problem. I want to believe it, but I also really do believe it. I think, I believe, and I am told that the sun is capable of managing, transforming the radiation on the planet. Because we know this is part of the depopulation program that the dark cabal has. I mean, you don't really believe this was an accident, do you? First of all, if it's an accident, let's move into emergency mode and fix it. Not 3 years later going, okay, let's put an ice wall around the meltdown that we haven't handled for 3 years. So I don't for a minute believe that that is the final curtain for planet Earth. I think it's a catalyst for us to wake up to the delicate balance of this planet. And we need something to wake us up as a massive custodians of this planet. But I believe and understand and have been guided from the Syrian High Council, who I trust implicitly because they've not been wrong so far, that the sun knows what to do. There's a chapter in the book, Atlantis Rising. It says, trust the sun. It knows exactly what to do. The sun is a conscious being cleaning up its chakras, because that's what the earth is. It's one of the chakras of the sun's body. The sun knows what to do. Meanwhile, please stop eating fish. Just stop eating. It would be a great time to start considering a vegetarian lifestyle if you haven't yet. And know that it's really not healthy for you to eat any fish anywhere on the planet. Stop. And be more conscious about what you're bringing into your body. But I want you to know that I am not in fear about this. I'm concerned. I hate to think for a minute that we are such irresponsible custodians of this planet, that is the way the planet is going to be abused. But I think the sun and the maneuvering of the sun at this time, this weird behavior of the sun, has everything to do with cleaning up this mess. I hope I'm right. If not, I'll see you in the next dimension. All right, we got one more question? Yes, love.
If you can just,
That's you.
If you can just hold on for the mic. Hold on. And this will have to be your closing bit.
Yes,
Okay,
I
we've
do
just
know.
got a few minutes.
Hello.
Hello.
I just want to put some good news out. I saw on Facebook that there is a young guy who's clearly an indigo, who has invented something that will remove the plastics
Yes.
from the oceans. So I just wanted to say that, because these kids coming in, the indigos and the crystal children and stuff, I mean, they are our future and they're our hope.
That's right.
And so I just wanted to put that out.
I am in touch with this young man. He's developed, thank you for sharing that. He's got this new device that is a scooper. It's like a hang glider, and it can scoop up mass quantities of plastic. He's trying to get funding. And of course, the powers that be don't want him to be able to do that for whatever their purpose is. But something else is happening. The plastic in the gyros is disappearing. Some people think that it's sinking to the ground and the ocean floor and wreaking havoc. And some of us believe there's some kind of intervention going on here. And I'm one of those people because I also believe in a happy ending. I think we are getting, when we talk about divine intervention and beings of the light and positive aliens coming in and assisting, bear in mind, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Nobody's going to come in here and fix us. We are the karmic guardians of this planet, and we have to fix it. So if you're waiting for motherships to come and scoop up the good guys, how many of you heard this one? The good spiritual people are going to be picked up by the spaceship, and we're going to be sailed off to another place, and the rotten no-good-nicks are going to stay with the dying earth. This is Judeo-Christianity back in New Age terms, and I'm not going for it. We are the karmic guardians of this planet. We have a work cut out for us, but the laws of non-intervention have been lifted because we are now dangerous to the entire solar system. And that was the rule. Once we become dangerous enough to destroy beyond our borders, we will be assisted. And I want to close with this thought because Andy's giving me the evil eyeball, the hairy eyeball. Number one, nobody has to fix us. Nobody has to save us. We are the saviors we've been waiting for. Never forget it. Number two, we are such babies at the technological game. And highly advanced civilizations, radiation, piece of cake. I think that the radiation is going to be handled. We're going to be assisted with handling it, and the plastic is going to be assisted. But if we keep drinking it and we keep making little goober toys, we have got to understand it and alter that reality. So please, be conscious about that. Be fearless about it. We can change this tape. We have assistance. We have the celestial wisdom of an incredible solar being called Ra, a Gaia planet that will never die, will never, ever die, and a process where we are now facing refinement as we move into a higher consciousness, a higher state of being. And with that, I want to thank you from the heart for coming here. I know Sunday night is not necessarily that easy. The room is full of beautiful souls. I'm so honored that you took the time to come. Thank you from the heart. Please help. Please care. Please be aware. Thank you. Thank you.
Patricia Cori.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.